How much money did you put into this gym, if you don't mind sharing?
Probably 150 grand.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Jason Capital here, and I am hanging out in the really ridiculously awesome gym of Mr. Alex Hormozi. Do a proverbial handshake at the start. I do this automatically. I don't think about why, and then I don't know what's happening, but my hand is. This is going to be fun. For those of you who don't know Alex, we're going to cut into a story in a second, but in a very short matter of time, this is someone who's built an extremely successful company, has helped tens of thousands of people through your own clients and everything that you do. And we'll talk about the story, business, marketing, where is this all going? There's a lot of changes going on with social media and selling and phone closers and a ton of stuff we're going to crack into. First place I want to start though is, so we're in Austin, Texas right now. Your house is awesome. Your gym is pretty ridiculous for a garage. How much money did you put into this gym, if you don't mind sharing?
Probably 150 grand.
150 grand just into the garage. He has, just so you're aware, there's a calf room over there where it's just equipment to train the calves. A whole room dedicated to the gastroc, all right? Pretty ridiculous. How did this all happen?
The whole thing?
I'm aware you called someone, you're like, hey, I want a barbell. Like, not how did the gym happen? Like, how did you get here?
Oh, man.
I'm aware, super open-ended. You take it wherever you want. Yeah.
So, it may be more relevant to start at the very beginning, at least. I think that's where probably a lot of people who are listening might be. And so I graduated college. I went to Vanderbilt, it's a school in Tennessee, and I did kind of like a lot of the entrepreneurial stories I think that are out there right now are like always struggled in school, like never felt like I fit in, like blah, like always was hustling, doing things on the side. Like I didn't have any of that.
Okay.
I was a really good student, studied really hard. I was kind of like the prodigal son for like my family, like, everyone like had their hopes and dreams in me. And then I took the 2-year consulting job, which is kind of like the standard path. It's either investment banking or like management consulting.
Yep.
So I went the consulting route.
So what were you thinking you were going to be doing?
When I went into consulting, or like
you're going into consulting. Where do you think it's going?
Yeah, so I'd always said I wanted to like be a business owner someday, but I feel like people say like that's like something you say.
I want to change the world.
Yeah, I want to be a business. Like, well, I'm doing this, and someday I'd like to open my own business. And so I kind of said that, and then 2 years in, I was applying to get my MBA, and so I did really well on the GMAT because I did 16 phone books of problems because I read this study that said the more amount of problems you do it was like a linear. Correlation with how well you did on the test. So I was like, oh, this is an input-output equation. Like, I love these. These are simple. Like, the more I do, the better I score.
Yep.
And so I did it, and I scored above Harvard's mid-score after doing it for 4 months. I did 4 hours a day of problems, so I could do that. But as I was like answering the questions, I think it was one of the first ones one of the first applications, like how will Booth MBA help your long and short-term goals? And I couldn't answer the question because I realized I was like, I don't think this will, because I was like, I want to own a business. I was like, this is going to cost me 120 grand, and I won't be able to make money for 2 years. And so I just like was thinking, I was like, and then the starting salary is like 120 grand a year. I was like, I don't, like the math didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wonder if in my consulting job, I had just gotten a bonus check for $30,000, and so I had saved up 60 grand. Over the 2 years. Like I lived on nothing, you know what I mean? And I was like, what can I do with this?
Yeah.
And so I looked into opening a frozen yogurt store. I looked really deep into that. I looked into test prep because I had just done that whole thing of like, man, I was like, I could sell someone a better future. Like this is a really valuable skill.
Were you thinking online test prep, or was it like tutoring?
Yeah, because I'd done the math. I was like, man, you can get 20 people for like $1,200 for 12 weeks. And it's like 1 hour a week that you do tutoring with them and give them homework. I was like, so it's like 12 hours for like 20 grand.
Yeah.
I was like, there's something there. You know what I mean? I can pay a teacher $50 to do the hour thing, and then like, I'm up. You know, like, and the school room is free because you rent it from a school. So like, there's literally like no cost. So I was like, this could work. But finally, what ended up happening is like, I'd always been into fitness, and people started like asking me for advice, and like it just got to the point where I was like helping people far beyond it, where it would be like normal to be helping someone. Yeah. And so I was like, and some people were like, I'm just going to give you money because I feel bad for how much you've helped me. And so I was like, maybe I should do this. And so I was, one of my coworkers was like, dude, if you don't go into fitness, like I'll open your damn gym for you. Like, And so that kind of took that as a sign. And from the consulting world, I'd always learned that the best way to learn a skill was to talk to experts, not try and find out on your own, because they've already sifted through the information. And so I emailed like 40 people that were gym owners. Like online was like looking at gyms and tried to email like the CEOs of the gyms. And only one guy got back to me. His name was Sam Bakhtiar out of Southern California. Yep. And he was like, "What's up, dude?" And I just like called him up and I said, I kind of want to get into the gym business and I don't know anything. And he said, "Well, you can be my apprentice." And so I was like, "Okay." And so I sold my condo. I literally put everything in my car, and 36 hours later, I was in Southern California from Baltimore. And so so I didn't know anyone. I just kind of like showed up there. I like packed my food in a cooler so I didn't have to stop. Really.
You had no idea where you're going to sleep. None of that stuff. Yeah.
Nothing. And so I showed up on his like front doorstep, and he was like, "All right, man, like I got to go to a meeting, but you know, you're welcome to walk around." Yeah. Anyways, it ended up working out, and after 12 weeks of kind of like shadowing him, I was looking for facilities, and I kind of signed my first one, which was Huntington Beach, in Huntington Beach, California. And so
that happened really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in those 12 weeks, you absorbed a lot.
Yeah. He would always start working at 4 a.m. And I do too. And so that's been something that I kind of took with me. And because he always worked from like 4 to 6. So he'd work like 14 hours a day, but he was like kind of done at a reasonable hour. Yeah. And so I kind of took that because he had wife and kids. I didn't. So I would go home and then like keep doing other stuff. Yeah. But I always kind of took that because it's like, you can always start earlier. Most people don't do anything productive from like 8 onwards. So it's like, we go to bed at like 8:30 because we were like, I'll do a 14-hour day and be done at 6, and it's not a big deal. Yeah. So anyways, I started the gym, and I was sleeping on the floor for the first 9 months because I didn't have enough money for both rents. After outfitting the gym, I had enough money for 1 more month's rent. And so I had to figure out how to do that, and I had no idea. Like, I had no business being in the gym business. The plan was to like run a Groupon and get people in the door, but the Groupon people didn't buy. And so that's when I learned out that different locations actually respond differently. Yeah. And so by chance, a guy that I was supposed to partner with going into the gym backed out the night before. We were supposed to sign a lease. Okay. And so I actually ended up, being the sole owner of the gym. And but before that, he was like, "Dude, we should go to this marketing conference." And it was a weekend from a guy named Travis Jones, who's he owned a fitness coaching company back then, and it was $3,000 for the weekend. Remember, I didn't have a lot of money, and the promise was that you'd make $10,000 by the end of the weekend or your money back. And so I was like, I can make 10 grand. That sounds great. And so this was my first foray into the world of like internet marketing, information space. I went there. I did not make $10,000 by the end of the weekend, but it was around how to market on Facebook, and this was 2013. And so I learned enough that I was like, I think I can learn how to figure this out. And I ran my first ads, and that's how I was able to open my gym. I had 26 people who signed up in the first like week or two. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know a lot, and so I thought that I should stop selling rather than like sell for as long as you can before you have to start fulfilling. Like I learned that later, but I was like, I have to start fulfilling for these people. So I only sold for like 8 days before opening the gym, because I thought opening the gym was how you make money rather than selling was how you make money. And I learned that later. And but anyways, by month 9, every month we added $5,000 a month to the business, and I had it completely outsourced by month 9 as well. So it's a little bit deceiving that I slept on the floor for the first 9 months, because I was also really cheap and I wanted to stack as much money as I could. Sure. But I had a manager everything was running by month 9, and at month 15 I opened the second location, and then every 6 months. In Huntington also? No. That one was in La Habra. Okay. But then every 6 months after that we opened another location. And then until I had 6, and that was in 2016, which is when my mom got super sick, and so she was on the East Coast. So I flew from the West Coast, East Coast, and I basically checked out. Like I wasn't on a meeting, I didn't take a call, like I did nothing for 6 months related to that business. Okay. And luckily they stayed afloat. You know what I mean? They just kept working. But what happened is, while I was out there, the same coworker who was like, "Hey, you should start gyms," was like, "I've got this buddy who was a gym, and I know you're doing really well now. Like, do you think you could help him out?" And I was like, "Sure," because I only had like 2 hours a day of visiting hours with my mom, and so I was like, I just need to stay busy. You know what I mean? Just keep your mind off things. And like, the only skill I really had at that point was like sell people into a gym. And so I ended up talking to this guy, Josh Price. He's actually still a client. And I was like, hey man, like, what's your marketing budget? And he said, what's that? And I was like, okay. I was like, how about I spend money and we'll get you leads, and then you can, work them and sell them, and we'll like split it or something like that. And he was like, cool, that sounds great. I'm only free from 12 to 2. And I'll have my 2-year-old, my 2-month-old with me. Is that going to be a problem? And I was like, that'll probably be a problem.
Yeah.
And so finally, I was like, do you have like a t-shirt and like a hat or something that I can wear, and I'll just do it for you? And he said, yeah, you can do that. And so I actually worked his front desk for 10 days and doubled his gym. He went from 70 to 140 customers in 10 days.
In 10 days.
Yeah, and the deal that I had made with him was that I would take the upfront cash, and then he would get the customer.
Gotcha.
So it's free customers for him.
Yep.
And for me, I didn't have to manage the fulfillment, so it's kind of and I had to risk the money, and I had to do the work to work the leads and sell them.
Yep.
And so I ended up making, I think, like $35,000 in a week, and I was like, man, this was actually a lot easier than running all the gyms. Like, I just showed up here and like, popped my 10 up and just sold. And I was like, if I did this for a whole month, I would have made $107,000.
Yeah.
Like, and just walked away. It's like, this is pretty cool. And so I was like, I wonder if any other gyms would be into me just like filling their gyms up for free. And it turned out a lot of gyms were into that. And so within a few weeks, word kind of spread. And so we actually were like booked out for like 8 months. And then I was like, shoot, I should.
And you're traveling around the country to all these gyms, like every weekend.
Oh, it was every month. It was like a 21-day sales cycle.
Gotcha.
And so this is right around the time I met Leila. So I flew back home and I was like, I got this idea for a business. You should do it with me. And she was like, I just met you like 3 weeks ago on Bumble. I don't know. And I was like, you should totally do it with me. And she was like, okay. And so she and I ended up sleeping together like in motels 3 weeks after meeting. Like from that point going
taking
forward,
this
like,
business
we
on the
literally
road.
lived together like within weeks.
Yeah.
And like even on our first date, I was like, we should work together, even if this doesn't work out. Like you should work for me. And obviously ended up working out. That's my wife.
And your partner, right?
And my partner.
Yeah.
She's co-CEO.
Yeah.
And yeah. So first it was like I did it. And I was like, I need to see if someone else can do it. So then she did one with me, and then she did one on her own.
And she did it. And she did
and
great
she crushed
too.
it. Yeah.
It's awesome.
She broke my record. So she did 240 sales in 28 days, which is nuts. I mean, that was at $500 a pop. So it was like she generated like 100 and whatever.
Crushed it. Yeah.
120 grand. And I was like, you're the first girl that's ever made me money.
The other ones cost me money.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, you made me money. And so that was when she was like, okay, I'll call all my friends and we'll get all of them to quit their jobs and go sell. And so we hired 6 guys to start flying around the nation launching gyms.
To do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, obviously, what you have today is not that.
Yeah.
So, what was like? When was the shift?
Yep. So there were a couple issues with that model. One was the obvious logistical one, which is you had to not be at home.
Yes.
And so a lot of the sales guys were like, dude, this is pretty tiring. I'm on the road like 24 days out of the month. Like my wife's going to divorce me. It's like, well, first it was a joke, and then it was like, really, dude, like my wife's going to divorce me. Like, got it. And then at the same time, one of the big problems with that was that I couldn't control the fulfillment. And so by the very nature of what I was doing, I had a lot of gyms that were struggling, that were approaching me, who needed the help. Mm-hmm. And the reason that they were struggling was because their product wasn't that good. And so I could fix the acquisition part and fill the gym up, but if the food didn't taste good, people weren't going to come back. Yep. And so what ended up happening is a lot of people weren't content with the service they were getting. And I had 2 gyms in a matter of a week, basically like stand on a chair in the middle of like a packed gym and just say like, go home, refund, I don't want to deal with you. Wow. And so I had like 100-something thousand in refunds in like a week. And I was like, I don't like this business. Like this doesn't, like it's not like it's not working. And so Leila and I had this idea because she had lost almost 100 pounds and now done like bikini competitions and all that stuff. I was like, why don't you be the face? Like, and I'll just sell and do the other stuff. Like I don't want to be the face, you be the face. And so we started something called Queen Transformation. Okay. And so within 14 days, we're doing 1,000 a day. Selling, like we're like cut the gyms out of it. Like we just sold straight over the internet, sold fitness packages. You were just selling fitness online? Yeah, for $1,000, just dial in and it was working. So I was like, great, I'll take the 8 guys, we'll do 8,000 a day, like this can work. And so what ended up happening is that I had 8 gyms that were supposed to launch the next month. And so I called, the first one up, his name was Chris Barnett, he's still a client. And I was like, hey man, like, just letting you know, like we're not going to be doing the launch the way that we had planned. And this had been planned a couple months ahead, so he was like really looking forward to this. Right. And he was like, dude, like we need this. Like I'm in debt. I've put all of my life savings into this. Like I'm going to close my doors if you don't do it. Like we really need this. You have to come out. And I was like, I don't have to come out. I haven't even paid it, like I don't need to come out. And so we went back and forth, and then finally I was like, all right, I'll show you how to do it so that you can, like, because I was like, I'm getting out of the gym business, like I'll just sell you my secrets kind of thing. And I've been really hesitant to like show people what I was doing because I was doing really well with it.
Yeah.
I was like at that point that I was ready to be done. And so he was like, okay, how much? And so I just said like the highest number I could think of because I just didn't want to do it. And he said, okay. And I was like, huh. And I like hung up the phone, and I had like 7 more people that I had to call, and I was like, hey. And then it was the same conversation. He was like, how much? And I was like, same number plus $2,000. He was like, okay. And I was like, huh. And by the end of the day, I made like 60 grand. And I was like, holy shit. Babe, I think we're still in the gym business. I was like, I think we were doing it wrong. And so it was when I realized that like teaching people how to fish rather than fishing for them was kind of the key.
Yeah.
Because people really wanted the skill. Because every person that I had launched the gym for called me back and was like, can you show me how to do what you did? And I was like, no. Like, I'm not showing. Because that was how I was making my money.
Yeah,
so I was like,
that's
no,
your IP. Yeah,
exactly. I was like, no, I'm not showing anyone. And so it was actually a huge scarcity thing for me. Like, I was really afraid to show people what I was doing. Like, I really like didn't want to show anyone because it was like my secret.
Right.
But then each one of those guys ended up making over $40,000 in their first month. You know, doing
it themselves.
And they were like, what else do you have? And I was like, well, do you want to know how to run the rest of the gym besides just like selling the first thing? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, cool. We've got this thing called Gym Legacy, which I just invented. You know what I mean? Like, and almost, I think from almost 3 years ago, 2/3 of those guys are still with us. And so that was kind of the information-driven model that was March of 2017. That is when it like really started. And from then until now, we've serviced 2,100 facilities. And it's been a rocket ride.
It's insane. It's less than 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Over 2,100 gyms.
Yeah. So it's been definitely a ride. And now we're investing a lot in technology so that we can automate some pieces of the business that tend to be bottlenecks for gyms so that we can just provide more value and decrease the overhead, increase like the efficiency of the gyms, make them more money. But that's where all of our focus is now. So that's how GymLaunch.
That's how we got here.
Yeah, that's how we got here.
And the cherry on the sundae was this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was this, by the way, is this something like you always wanted in your house?
Yeah, I always wanted a sick gym.
Like your own, that no one else uses. It's like your...
Yeah, it's probably partially laziness because like I just hate changing the settings on machines, like adjusting the chairs and like moving things and like taking the weight off. And so and I know people say like it's gonna bend the machine, but it hasn't. And I end up working out more because I don't have to change weights on anything. So I can like move way faster through stuff.
Yeah.
Because loading stuff, especially when you get stronger, just takes so long.
Yeah.
That it's just a lot faster.
It makes a lot of sense. Do you like? I know like when I've had gyms in my houses throughout the day, I just do a little pulse. Like in addition to normal lifts, I'll just come in for 10 or 20 minutes and just do stuff.
I've never done that.
You don't do that at all. Yeah. Well, all right. Let's compare. Yeah. I can teach you some stuff about lifting after if you want. I'm glad to. Cool. So one thing that is a skill set of yours that's very, very, very like dialed in is the ability to sell high ticket. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff changing in how we sell high ticket on the internet, online, offline, etc. Like, what are the ingredients that need to be there for someone to sell high ticket? Because in my perspective, to sell high ticket, it doesn't start when you're on the phone. There's a ton of stuff that happens before. Yeah. What are like the key things you want there to like you want to be there? So
I think it's total like. I'm amazed at the companies that go like opt in straight to like a $1 zillion sale. Like that's just really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And maybe it works at large scale, but like it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that there's definitely some like deep-seated like fear of rejection that I have, which is why I think I inadvertently got good at sales because I didn't want people to say no.
Yeah.
And so I try to figure out as many ways as possible to make it as likely that someone would say yes.
Yeah.
And so I told you I went to that seminar like however long ago, that first Facebook marketing seminar from Travis Jones. He said something to me that weekend, and I knew nothing. I hadn't even opened my gym yet. And he was like, "You want to know the secret to sales?" And I was like, "Yes, I want to know that." Like, yes, tell me the secret to sales. He said, "Make people an offer that's so good they feel stupid to say no." And that's always kind of stuck with me. Is like, selling is definitely a skill, but I see it kind of as a commodity because once you kind of follow a formula, like as long as you have the right tonality, probably do pretty okay. And the marginal difference of being a 7 out of 10 closer versus a 9 out of 10 closer doesn't make a ton of difference to a business, because I could have 10 people who are 7 out of 10 and do way more than one guy who's a 9 out of 10.
Right, who's probably a diva also.
Right, who also thinks he's whatever, can do no wrong. And so that's why I don't see sales as a super special skill once you know it. But at the end of the day, it's just transference of conviction. And so that transfer of conviction starts with every touch point, from the ad all the way to them giving you the card. And so Dan Kennedy, the late Dan Kennedy, talks about it as like sales choreography, is like it should all be congruent. Like the entire process, if you say you're the best, everything should look and feel that way all the way through the process. And so from the time someone opts in, for us, like we have an entire experience that's been kind of put around like them before they get on the phone with the first phone call, because we do a two call close typically, mostly because as much as people in the world will say like you got a one call close, like sure, but in the real world, if you're selling something that's really expensive, that's like more than someone's entire yearly pay, like they're gonna need to talk to their wife about it. Like they should talk to their wife about it. And so it's kind of been taking a little bit more humanistic approach to like selling. And so I mean, we definitely go for the sale, but we're not going to be douches about it. Like you always ask, but it's not, like not demanding and trying to like get into a sparring fight. That never works. Right. You know what I mean? Like as soon as the tone changes on the phone, like you're not going to win.
It's done.
Right. Or they do it and then they'll back out. Like there's no point. So for us, the way that we do it is by having a really good product, and by me transferring the conviction in the product to the sales guys. I mean, we have over 1,000 testimonials of gyms that have turned around. And so always taking into consideration anything that's coming in from the actual product itself that we can improve, so that we can always keep our conviction very high and that we can make promises we can fulfill.
That's what I was going to say. Is that a thing for you maybe in the research or prep phases where you're like, what does this product need to do or have in order for me to feel the conviction necessary that I need? Is that a big thing for you?
In every other part of the world besides the information space, like you test things, right, before releasing them. Most people are like, I have this new course, it's amazing, and then they launch it and it doesn't, like they don't have like case studies or testimonials. And so like typically for us, we'll have 30 gyms run through something before we roll it out, which for me is funny because I think that there are a lot of businesses that try and like, I would say they would consider themselves competitors, which I do not. That's like the entire size of their business. When like we just test with like 30 representative markets with a variety of skill levels. So like I don't take my 30 best people. I take like some killers, a lot of middle tier, and then some guys who are struggling, so I can get a realistic view of what's going to happen. Right. Also, it just keeps me honest, because if I only had my killers, then
it's skewed.
Yeah, because I can't make good predictions like on how well it's going to go and what bottlenecks are going to actually come up on the customer service side. Right. So.
So you're going to test it out with 30. You're going to look at all of it, the feedback, and you're just going to keep iterating on the product until you feel like someone would have to be stupid not to accept it.
Right. Until we can get a consistent outcome for like 90% plus. Gotcha. Once we can do that, once we over 90% of them are consistently achieving the outcome that we're shooting to do, and a lot of times it actually means making it shorter, not longer. Yeah. So a lot of times when people are like in the information space especially, they will try and make a dictionary or like an encyclopedia of just shitloads of videos, and they're all ridiculously long and unedited because they're like, it's all such good whatever. But we go through things and try and think, how can I make this shorter? What can I take out? How can I increase or decrease the speed to money? And so it's always like, how can I make it shorter over time now, because we have so much content inside of our portal. Like the release that I have coming out in 14 days is I think 30 minutes of total training, because I could make it a 4-hour training, right? But it's 30 minutes and it's awesome. But I try, because everyone's time is valuable, and so I increase the likelihood that they actually consume it and can understand it by making it shorter, so they can achieve the outcome that I said I promised.
It drives your conviction totally, because if this thing was 6 hours, not 30 minutes, you wouldn't be as geeked about selling it.
Right. Yeah. I would if I was lying to myself. But I think at a certain point, like you have to, like you start having to confront like reality and facts. Yeah. And so, conviction's everything. And I think that I will always take conviction over skill, like whatever, every day of the week and twice on Sunday or whatever the saying is. Sure. Because it's everything.
Do you, like you've 14 salespeople, is state a part of it? Like, I mean, is there certain things you guys do? Like you want them like, hey, we're going to get you in the most like convicted state humanly possible before you get on the phone? Or is it more of a calm, like certain energy? What do you think?
You definitely need to be upbeat. You know what I mean? I think, because rapport is huge, even in the beginning of the sale. Like if you don't have rapport, you dig yourself out of a well. It takes way longer to close. And so like every morning there's a sales team huddle. One guy will lead it and talk about his commitments for the day. Everyone will say how many closes they're going to get, and that's like how many real closes they know they're going to get based on follow-ups, et cetera.
Yep.
And so like you can't exaggerate those numbers because people will hold you to them. And we have a phenomenal sales manager who turned around 13 24-hour fitnesses, so he's used to going into a sales team, seeing where the weak players are, improving them, cutting the people who aren't good. And one of the biggest things I can say for anyone who's trying to run a sales team is that you have to be willing to let people go, because it keeps everyone honest. And it also, out of respect to everyone else on the team, like everyone wants to have a team of killers. And when you have weak links that are staying and getting equal lead flow, they're like, why is this guy getting leads? Like he's not closing.
Yeah.
And so.
So how do you guys? How do you do that? Is it like weekly, monthly? We look at numbers and we're gonna let
monthly is typically it'll be monthly from like a KPI standpoint.
Okay.
There's a certain percentage of leads that they're expected to close. If they get over a certain percentage, they get a little bit more on each close. So there's a little bit of a ratchet.
Gotcha.
So it ramps up.
Okay.
But by and large, it's going to be. I mean, like most sales, it's still a question of volume in terms of like effort and reach out.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Were you training and managing sales team at the start?
Yeah.
When the company was.
Yeah, I was, and then Leila took that over because she's more of the operator, and then we got a sales manager.
And you got it. Yeah. How far into the game did you get the sales manager?
Probably 9 months.
9 months into it.
But if you needed a volume level, we were doing over $1 million a month before we did that. I mean, when you talk about outsourcing skills, it's always like in reverse order of the value. And so usually like one of the typical things you hear from a starter entrepreneur is like, man, there's no good salespeople. It's like, or you don't have the skill to manage good salespeople. Mm-hmm. And so once you turn it that way, then it's a skill that you can acquire. Once you acquire it, you can transfer it to someone else and you can move out.
Exactly.
And then after that, it's like, man, there's no people who are good at running traffic or marketing or whatever it is. It's like, well, you have to acquire the skill, and then you have to learn how to teach someone else the skill, which is two separate skills.
Yep.
And then once you do that, then you can move out.
Yep.
And so it's always reverse order. Most people try and move out of sales way too early. Like I still did the first 100 legacy sales before I handed it over to anyone.
You did? Yeah. Is there phone calls? Yeah.
It was actually 84. But yeah.
It seems like in your team, in your culture, there's a very strong commitment to reality. Like if someone's like, I'm going to close this many, and it's a bullshit number, it's just what they hope, then they're going to get cut off, or they're going to get, is that a very conscious thing? That you
public shaming, okay.
I heard that works,
100%. So I mean, we have 6 core tenets that we live by. We say them every day, we say them on our calls, and the reason you have to do that is because if you want to have decentralized communication and decision making, you need people to all have the same values that they're believing in.
Yeah.
And so lots of people talk about, we have the mission statement, we have values, but like they make it and then they never talk about it again.
Right.
And so usually those aren't real for the owner, like they're not their actual values.
Yep.
And a lot of times they need to be things that like you actually believe, and they should be a little bit unique and a little bit different and really polarizing. Like be a good person is like not really a value, like most people agree on that. So like for example, they'll typically be dichotomies that you'll lean one way or more. So 2 things that are opposite that you'll lean more one way than the other. So like an example is grow or die. That's the one that most people know of ours is like if you're not growing, you're dying, and that means that like personal growth, you need to be growing, but also as a business, like if we're not growing, then there's something that's massively wrong, and you need to fix it immediately. And so it's in a way of saying embrace change. Like there's going to be change, and you have to deal with it, and there's for a slower moving company, for people who are not, a lot of people don't want to work in that type of environment. And so we actively say that and preach that when people are trying to come to the business, so we can try to ward those people off.
Right.
Don't sugarcoat it is one of the other ones. So it's like, be real. Like, tell it like it is, because it doesn't do anyone any favors to just not tell someone like, dude, you fucking up.
Yeah.
I mean, like, here's how, and here's how we can improve. You know what I mean? Speed is king. Some people will lean more towards perfection. Some people lean more towards speed. We're more of a speed company. We believe speed is the currency of business, currency of money. And so we'd rather have something that's 85% right, and that we can iterate off of than wait too long and then launch it after just wait.
And how do you, you said everyone says it every day. Is it like I pledge allegiance? So
everyone has like swag, and the swag has this like the different core tenets on it. Everybody who's new has it, we have a core tenets like poster board type material that they all get sent, so they can put it next to their computer so they can know what we believe. And then on our weekly and monthly meetings, we talk about the core tenets, what they mean, who exemplified each one of them that month, and then we do an overall like Jedi award, which is like just, I think, does it.
So it's it's coming up in the vocabulary every day with everyone.
Yeah, do the boring work.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the other ones. Like, so
is that a new one?
Yeah, we swapped out, and so we changed them. You know what I mean? We had one before that was go the extra mile, and I think after thinking about it a lot, it made it feel like we shouldn't always be going the extra mile. Like, you should be doing the extra mile, and I didn't want to applaud people for going above and beyond because like you're supposed to go above and beyond. But doing the boring work was more real of like, you will achieve extraordinary outcomes doing boring things over and over and over again. Like you get better at sales by selling more times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get better at making copy by writing more copy.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's repetitive, and that's the stuff, that's the work, that's the rocky cutscene that no one wants to see or talk about. I was on a podcast, and the podcaster was like, so I know you did 4,000 sales at your gyms, and and I knew you ate shit for like 6 years, and you were like flying around the country and doing things. Like, so for everyone who wants to like skip over that, like what would you tell them? I was like, you're not going to.
Don't. Yeah.
Right, you're not going to because you won't acquire the skill. So like.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think about 8 years of barnacles, which is like when Darwin was studying evolution, he spent 8 years studying just barnacles. And like who the fuck else is gonna right? No one's gonna do 8 years of barnacles except Darwin. And because you put so much time into the boring work, I mean, you created an idea that has literally shaped the world. Yeah. Cool. So if you were to I'm not gonna say compare, but if you were to diagnose, what do you think? Well, it's like if there's an edge that you think your company does that, whether it's in the same market or other markets, they don't do, but they could, but it gives like a big advantage. What do you think that is?
So from a belief standpoint or from a tactical standpoint?
Well, let's go one belief, one tactic.
Okay, I'm gonna do tactic first.
Word.
So tactically, we're extremely good at acquisition. And so we know our numbers very, very well in terms of our cost to acquire customer, lifetime value of the customer. Most people don't actually know their numbers, or the data that they're using is not good.
Correct. Because
their CRM is poor, they don't do tagging, all that kind of stuff. And so we know our numbers better than most people, and so we can spend more aggressively in the acquisition because we actually know what we're going to collect on average. And so because of that, it gives us an edge, and we're also very good at acquiring customers. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, we know our numbers, which is what makes us good and what allows me to spend in a way that no one else can.
Yeah. It goes back to like Kennedy, right? He always said that like this stuff it's behavioral psych and it's math. Yeah. And those are the only, and I never really understood what he meant until probably fucking a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the first slide on almost every presentation I give is a rephrasing of the original Dan Kennedy quote. So the original quote is, "He who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins." The rephrasing that I like is, "The business owner who can make his prospect more valuable to his business than that of his competition wins." Yep. And so it's just a different way of kind of seeing the same thing. It's like, how can I make this person more valuable to my business than anyone else? Yep. And so for that reason, we've been developing the technology so that we can help them in other ways. So ultimately, it's just, how can I provide more value to this person than anyone else can? And then by extension, be able to spend more to acquire them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that was tactical.
Tactical.
Well, belief.
I think on a belief side, it really is those core tenets that I was talking about. Like, we as founders really try and practice what we preach. I never want someone in my company to think they outwork me.
Yeah.
Everyone says that.
What's like an example of like, okay, so no one's gonna outwork you. What's an example of a way that you actually communicate or signal that to your team besides saying, "Hey guys, I worked hard."
I would never even
of course. Yeah.
I even feel bad saying the original thing, just because it's kind of trite. But like doing the boring work, like I was telling you earlier, like if I have something that I need, like I'll message 1,000 clients. If I want to send a message to people, I'll record 200 personalized videos. It's just the kind of stuff that most people won't do. Yep. And so it's just like, what level of effort are you willing to put in to achieve the outcome that you want? Yeah. And I think a lot of people, like, they think that, and then they're like, as soon as they start to realize how much effort it is, they immediately think, okay, there's got to be another way. But sometimes, like, the best moves are not the scalable moves. Yeah. And that's what makes them so effective. Yeah, because no one's doing them. Right. Yeah. Do you think a lot of entrepreneurs, even like successful business owners, they know the thing that they should be doing to like go to the next level, but because the workload is so high, they shy away from it, they hide from it, they try and find an easier, I mean, dude, we know successful business owners who are still looking for like the magic trick. Yeah, I think It really depends on what level of business owner we're talking about.
It feels to me like, from my perspective, that you are constantly leaning into change and innovation. Like there's no resistance. Whatever's coming, let's just do it.
That's probably the biggest belief thing is grow or die. So if I could rephrase my original answer, like that really is it. Is that I'll say it better. Realizing that whenever the business is not growing, it is my fault, and it means that there's a skill that I have not yet acquired that I need to acquire. And so always rephrasing the problem of the business as an opportunity for growth has been probably the single belief that allows us to grow.
And when you realize, okay, I need to grow and acquire this skill, is the first thing you still do is I need to talk to experts?
That's totally. Usually what I'll do is I'll talk to experts if they will give me the time. If they don't, I just ask them for the books that they acquired the majority of their skills from, and then I'll go that way. So it's like rather than trying to read a book on software, I'll talk to my software friend. So I asked Dan Martell, I was like, hey man, what are the best books on software stuff? And so he was like, go to this guy. And so I went to this guy and I got all of his books and I read all of them in 4 days. And then I read them again. And then I read them again. And so one of the other things I think in skill acquisition is a lot of people like read a book and then they're like, I read that book. I mean, you hear all the time like, oh yeah, I read that. That was good. And I'm like, cool, but your life is the same as it was before. And so I don't read a ton of books. I read a few amount of books a lot of times. So that I can actually get the thing out of it, rather than like I think you have to read a book like twice just to even like really understand it, or I'm just really dumb.
No. I agree completely with the first part. I don't think you're pretty dumb. I think you're pretty smart. Yeah. So, okay. So I mean, is reading like let's talk about your day, right? Because you go, okay, I need software books, and then you read all the books in 4 days. Like, did you just not work during those 4 days? Like, you take work off. I don't have a lot of things on my schedule, especially if I don't want to have things on my schedule. Okay. And so I'll tell my EA, like, I call them Hercules Days. So I'm like, I need Hercules Days for the next like 6 days. You will just acquire skill in those days. It'll be whatever it is. Yeah, and it could be making a presentation, it could be making a pitch, it could be making a training, it could be but most of the work that I have to do is usually alone. That's partially because that's my role. And so I'm very fortunate in the fact that like my wife is a phenomenal operator, and so I'm able to do that. There are many entrepreneurs who have to wear both hats, and that becomes difficult. Usually it's hard to break past the 3-ish million barrier until you have a good operator. And so like if you think about the beginning, most times the first skill is like, I learned how to sell, right? And once you learn how to sell, you can pretty much always feed yourself. But then you learn how to market. And when you can market and sell, you can usually not even have too much fulfillment and get to $1 to $3 million a year fairly, easily. But then everything after that is all ops. And so if you think about like a business, right, you have lead generation, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment, and then, retention, and then ascension, right? So you have 5 things. And so you have to work your way through the bottleneck, and then only once you've figured out how to retain customers and then keep them coming back, that you go back and actually have to level up your marketing skills. But most people like stop around, like they can't get past this one, which is the delivery of the thing they promised. And so they just stay at that $3 million-ish. And they just keep cycling through the first 3 fingers.
I need to get better at marketing, but that's not their bottleneck. And so when you asked originally, what is the thing that most entrepreneurs do, is they usually misdiagnose their weakness. And they enjoy reading more stuff about marketing and sales because they're promoter-type personalities. But that's not their weakest link. And so I know that there's the Gary Vee's of the world who say, like, always double down on your strengths, which is true as an individual, but the business needs to be a consortium of skills where everyone has a strength, and you have to plug the deficit that's in the business with the person who has the strength that you don't have. And so in the beginning, sometimes you need to acquire that skill. Over time, you can acquire people who have that skill.
Correct.
And then you can move up.
But I think it's a really good point. They stop at the middle finger. That's good. Okay, so no, that's a really solid insight. So, all right, so you don't usually have stuff on your like, how do you plan your weeks? Like, are you sitting there Sunday night, like, what are my priorities for this week? And
not really. I have really poor, like, typical entrepreneur, like, what you're supposed to do. I've never really been, like, I don't make my bed every day. I don't
journal every day.
I don't journal. I don't say the 5 things I'm grateful for. I don't do any of that stuff.
Okay.
And so for anyone who doesn't do that, you can still make dollars.
And if you do, what works for you, what works for you.
I heard this from Jim Collins from Good to Great, who's brilliant, by the way. If you ever listen to him talk, he's super smart. Anyways, he said, "I am disciplined, not regimented," and I was like, That is what it is. So whenever something needs to get done, I will do it, and it will always be done on time. And I would like be early, whatever, and it will be great. But I do it when I want to do it. And so there will be times like today was actually I crushed a lot of things that I really wanted to do today because I was in the mood to do them.
Gotcha. How did you know what you needed to do? Was it you deciding, or was it your team telling you?
No, it's me.
It's you.
It's me. Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
Gotcha. But so, like, I mean, dude, on Instagram, you're up at like 2:49 a.m. sometimes, right? Yeah, which is.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Reading, learning, doing this stuff. So it's usually making presentations because I really like making presentations that are really good, and so that takes a lot of visuals. And so sometimes like one slide to convey an idea will take me 30 minutes.
You'll be building the slides yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because right now I see my role as CEO as basically chief communicator. And so I have to communicate internally to the team. I have to communicate externally to our clients. I have to communicate to the marketplace. I have to communicate in terms of content. When I say the marketplace, I mean advertising. Yep. And so like there are lots of I have to communicate. And so that's the majority of what I do is thinking about like what hooks, what angles we can use to further penetrate, and then also how can I break down ideas in a way that my team can understand them better so they can execute on them.
So a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, they'll have ideas because that's their brain, and then they'll go, team, here's what we're going to do, and they scare the fuck out of the team, and they haven't thought through how to communicate this new idea to the team either. There's a lot of preparation time for you.
Yeah, a ton, and there's a lot of repetition because like if you they're like I said it once, like we're good, but like it's setting up communication cadences internally, and usually that's the biggest thing that most entrepreneurs who sell are missing is that they just don't know how to operate, and so that means that they don't have the right org structure in place. They don't have a cadence. They don't do one-on-ones. They don't do weekly reports. They don't do those are all things that are kind of basics of operations. But most people don't have the basics of operations. They just learn to sell and market. Those who make money. Yeah. And so I guess if you don't know how to sell and market, you probably aren't making money.
Probably.
But yeah. So in terms of my day, usually stuck doing those things. I enjoy doing those things. And what would be interesting is if you have Leila sitting next to me and she's co-CEO, she really leads the internal team. And so she's a cyborg, she's incredibly regimented and incredibly disciplined. And so her day looks identical every day. She does the same thing. She wakes up, she journals, she does her cardio, then she does her personal training session, and then she showers, and then she eats the same food that she prepared for herself the night before. It's, that's how she is because that's how she works.
Yeah.
I don't work that way.
Sure.
And I could, I just don't.
You probably tried I bet you've tried every way, every guru told you. You found what worked best for you.
I've got a ton of them that have 4 pages in, and then I was like, I just don't feel like doing this. I know what I need to do. I have a whiteboard, which will usually have 3 things on it, and then I'll see it, and I'll be like, yeah, I need to do that. And then I just start on one of them. I don't have anything that's due tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Ever.
Yeah.
Most of my things are month.
Because operations are so dialed in.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have day-to-day stuff.
Yeah. Which is the mark of a really, really good run business. Yeah, the CEO has the free. And of course, people looking at the outside, they're like, "Fuck, wow, he must really." But the truth is, there's always shit going on in the business. Fires that are putting out. It's not a business if there's not those.
Yeah.
Those are expected. That's part of the deal. Okay, last question, and let's make the last question super boring for everyone listening. So let's talk about Infinite Game.
Okay.
Yeah. So I first heard you bring up this topic at Talking Wars Mastermind. You're presenting. And I've heard Hutto talk about it also.
Yeah.
What is it? Why do you like it?
I think Infinite Game is just an outlook on life in terms of what game you're playing. So a lot of entrepreneurs talk about it as the game, right? Most successful entrepreneurs think of it as the game because they've kind of removed themselves from the money aspect, and it's just fun at this point. At a certain it depends on how you level up, but at a certain point, your income far surpasses what you need, and then your wealth far surpasses what you need, and so then it's what am I playing for?
Right.
And so most people mistakenly play a finite game, which has known players, agreed upon or defined rules, and an agreed upon outcome, right? Which is
a scoreboard.
Ravens, the Ravens and the Bengals play. These are the rules, and the outcome is you win or you lose based on these predefined criteria. In an infinite game, you have known and unknown players. The rules are not agreed upon, and the point of the game is to keep the game going. And so there is no end. And so since the objective of an infinite game is to keep playing, it's a lot more like business. Because a lot of people are we're number one in whatever. It's over what time period, right? And in what?
Yeah.
Right? In profit and revenue and But like, again, over what time? Like, so what? You were good for 2 years. If you look at it over 100 years, like, no one gives a shit.
Right.
And so I think reframing that in terms of, like, what it does, I think, is it takes the pressure off of the outcome and puts it more into the process, which I struggle with that every day. I mean, I'm still, like, I think we as humans are more finite people in general. But fitness is also the same thing. Marriage is the same thing. Like, you don't win at marriage, right? The point of the game is to keep the game going. The point of marriage is to stay married, right? And hopefully enjoy it. The point of fitness is not like I have become fit, which is why, like, duration-based marketing, although incredibly it converts people, is also kind of ridiculous. Yeah. And so, because like I was fit for a year, I was fit for 2 years out of my 80-year life, I was fit for 5 years out of my 80-year life. When you start thinking about it in that context, then it's like, what attributes or character traits that I developed that I continue to do over the span of 80 years? And so it kind of reframes the game into a game that is winnable, and the way you win the game is by playing. Yeah.
Why do you like that?
I think because I'm really, really, really goal-driven, and so it helps me not be as goal-driven. Yeah. Because I don't think it's, Dr. Kashi's my really good friend who's our PhD, who's a biochemist, like genius person. Got his PhD when he was 21, like really, really smart guy. He's like, I think, and he dealt with a lot of Olympians and champions, and he's like, I think a lot of people look at champions and they think, what does that guy have that I don't? And he's like, it's usually, what do you have that they don't? Which is, they're missing something. They're missing a stop button. They're missing something that gets them to like check out. They can't. And so I think that a lot of the things that are associated with high achievement are also things that aren't really associated with like subjective well-being and being happy. And so I remember specifically when I was 19, I was in college, I was dating this girl who was obsessed with positive psychology. And she was obsessed with it. Like, does this make me happy? Does this make me happy? And I remember when I was with her, I was like probably the most like depressed I'd ever been, because all I could think about was like, does this make me happy? And I just remember like one day being like, fuck happiness. Like, fuck it. Like, I don't want to be happy. I'm just going to accomplish shit. And when I made that decision, I actually ended up being a lot less depressed.
and happier. Yeah.
But I think it was really just by moving, and so I don't really think a lot of, so the original question is like, why do you like Infinite Game? I think it's just because it's really about movement. And I think for me, if I'm moving, I'm good. And so it's like, I just don't stop moving. Yeah. And as long as I keep moving, I'm moving forward. Even if I'm moving backwards, I'm not standing still. And so that's where I feel like I'm in my state. Yeah.
Well, it's awesome, man. Yeah, no, it's a good fucking answer. Well, dude, thank you so much for sharing your time and opening your doors to us here.
Hope that was adorable.
I hope everyone got a ton out of it. Do you want, like, where do you want people to go? If we were to put a link somewhere.
If you want to just check out the podcast, it's alexspodcast.com, or it's called Gym Secrets. I don't talk about gym stuff that much anymore. It's more just, but it's still called Gym Secrets. Okay. It's more about like mindset, making money. I do talk about some sales stuff, more business strategy. But,
awesome. alexspodcast.com.
Yep.
All right, cool. Put a link below. You can click it, or you cannot click it, but you should probably click it. Yeah. Cool. All right, well, dude, we'll do one more handshake because why not? Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon. Awesome. Dude, let's keep going. Yeah. Hey, why don't you have the time you want for yourself yet? Why does your job keep letting you down? It's because you haven't developed the high income skills yet to create your own high income empire for yourself and your family. So at the link below, you now have me as your personal mentor, completely free for the next 7 days. You have a free username and password. I'm gonna get started with you right away. And if you love it, it's only $10 a month after that. All right, you pay more for Spotify, and I promise you Spotify is not gonna change your life and your business the way that this can. Now, I can do this forever. So hit that link and come join us inside right now.